Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Regen community call. We've been running around busy, so we procrastinated getting the link to everybody. I'll expect some people to show up a little late. In the meantime, I'll start moving over to run through the presentation. Hope everybody's well. It's been a crazy couple of weeks in the metaverse, I guess. So yeah, excited to dig in and share. All right, got a couple more folks showing up. Welcome to the Regen community call. I'm going to share my screen and get going here. As usual, we try to keep this call to about 15 minutes or less of information sharing, and then we can have conversation and dialogue. I'll be expecting folks to continue to show up through the call because we were a little late getting the link into the Discord and Telegram channels, which usually is, where people are clicking through from. So yeah, we'll get things going. So if you don't mind, just if you've got questions, you can pop them into the chat and we'll open things up for dialogue at the end of my share. So welcome to the community update for July 7th. It's been a busy couple weeks. As you all may know, Regen is trading on Osmosis DEX. So there's kind of a tutorial, if you haven't already been engaging with that, around how to go engage. It's been pretty interesting to just, see it all unfold, and lots of stuff happening over there. So I shared, there's a couple links here, so you can go to the Imperator block explorer, which has data on the pools. I put in some specific, the specific links there to the Atom Regen trading pair and the Osmosis Regen trading pair, as well as to CoinGecko, just for those who are interested in just the data of what's happening as Regen trading and swapping and liquidity provision goes live over on Osmosis. Gravity DEX, I believe, is slated to be up on July 12th with maybe full functionality operating on July 16th, if I'm not mistaken. That's coming from, there's kind of Cosmos Hub community governance and all that jazz. But just for people to be aware, that's also going to be moving. And we do have plans to have liquidity provision taking place for Regen Atom trading pair, at least over on Gravity DEX, which is very exciting to sort of see this all unfolding organically and getting Regen out into the world. All right. Oh, why did that happen? There we go. There we go. So just a quick update on, we have been discussing internally and externally and with the community about our plans for doing liquidity provision rewards for folks who are doing liquidity provision on the DEXs for Regen trading pairs. And the news is there's no news. We want to see, because there's large osmosis incentives right now for trading pairs and plenty of liquidity. We expect there to be plenty of liquidity on the Gravity DEX. So we want to just sort of take a moment, take the next couple of weeks and observe how these Gravity or how these DEX launches are going, and create a plan from there. So stay tuned. Just a general reminder, there's a total of 3 million Regen allocated for sort of an emphasis on distribution to Atom holders and sort of boosting the community. We expanded that out into, sort of the Osmosis as a proxy, as that was an airdrop mechanism. So we are going to be keeping with the commitment of distributing those tokens, but we're wanting to sort of move slow and thoughtfully around when we actually pull the trigger on the LP rewards. So stay tuned. We don't have any details to share about that. So just a quick note, maybe I'll pass it over to Dan to talk us through just the details around the airdrop distribution that took place a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so airdrop has already happened, as most of you know, and was successful. There was really no issues with it at all, which is good news. And we dropped a total of just about 200,000 regen, and which increased just on the Regen network alone, we increased the wallets to 2,203 wallets, and that only includes, that's not IBC, so that's just on the Regen network itself. I'm assuming with IBC it's probably a lot more than that, and hope to get those tokens back on chain at some point. So I felt really good about it, and yeah.
Great, thanks, Dan. All right, so as always, you can go check out the public Notion roadmap. I'll just take you on a quick tour of that. For those who are new to the call, we keep sort of a built-in public roadmap, so you can see Regen Ledger, things that are underway in beta, released for Regen Ledger, Cosmos SDK. Most of you probably know we're the lead maintainer of the Cosmos SDK, and so you can see what's happening there. The Regen registry, which is the main application that is running on top of Regen Ledger, things that are going on there. And then science. There's a lot of science that goes into high quality eco credits like carbon credits, and sort of solving the Oracle problem around how these credits are issued and then can be traded and retired on chain is a big part of what we do. So you can see what's happening there. And then, of course, Open Team, one of our primary open source communities besides the Cosmos SDK that we do a lot of work in. You can see what's moving there. So that's our public facing roadmap there that kind of gets updated by all the teams involved. And yeah, so that's the conclusion of the news. We're hoping to do some more in-depth analysis of the LBP itself. And as Dan said, we're looking to sort of get some analytics on how many addresses, IBC addresses, either on Osmosis or Gravity Dex, are holding Regen tokens. And of course, you can go up and check out the data for yourself on trading volume and prices and other things. So there's links here for people who are interested in digging into that. So with that, I'll take a pause. And Dan has just popped in the calendar that has this and other community events available for folks who may want to hop in and make sure to add the Regen public calendar for events that are out there. So yeah, great. I'm going to open it up and see if there's questions. I'll have a look at the chat. Don't see anything. So yeah, anybody have any questions or comments about what's up in Regen land this week?
I've got that new term. Instead of staking rewards, I like the staking spawn. So whoever came up with that term, that's pretty neat. Yeah, just as an aside.
In Discord, yeah, I saw that. I think maybe in some networks they use that term. I'm not sure.
I think that's cool.
Maybe it's worthwhile to if we've got a little bit of time here, that news about Imerus. Paul, do you want to speak to this? I don't know exactly what you're talking about.
Hey, yeah, I just saw a little bit of news. I think it's called Imerus or Imerus from
yes. That's right. The brand
Right.
had not stuck in my head yet. Yeah, so Tendermint's cross-chain wallet and sort of DeFi portfolio management software will definitely be supporting Regen. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. There's lots of, as the Gravity Dex comes online, it's going to be pretty fun. I mean, things are, and I think Gravity Bridge is not far off. We're having really exciting, I mean, I guess these are all pieces of news that yeah, gosh, we should be sort of sharing some of this stuff. I forgot to put this in our slideshow. So we did a really fun offsetting deal with F2 Pool, which is the largest Bitcoin mining pool. And those of you who follow me on Twitter might also have noticed we're part of a working group with F2 Pool and their proof of stake counterpart Stakefish, as well as a bunch of other really fantastic projects doing sort of carbon accounting work in the space called the Blockchain Infrastructure Working Group, where we're talking about how to account for energy use in the crypto industry and do sort of automated offsetting, as well as create new forms of sort of greened collateral where Bitcoin can be wrapped with offsets and then be used as collateral in DeFi pools. So there's a bunch of really exciting stuff happening there. I kind of spaced it as we were getting ready for the call, so it wasn't in our piece. But I've been sharing a lot about that on Twitter and some in the Discord as well. So that's kind of news, fun news that's all moving right now in the crypto in sort of our part of the corner of the crypto universe. And then of course, things are really starting to heat up with IBC, Interblockchain Communication Protocol, coming online, and automated market maker systems coming online in Cosmos. And we're doing a lot of learning and paying attention to how this informs the roadmap for Regen Ledger, as we've always wanted to have a decentralized exchange between different sort of carbon and other eco assets, so that there can be price discovery, for instance, between soil carbon and blue carbon, and particularly expensive or robust methodology for verification and cheaper, and sort of these ways of actually creating price discovery and distinction and discernment, we really feel is core to creating a healthy market around natural capital assets. And so it's really interesting to be participating in the liquidity pools and watching osmosis working and watching gravity working, because eventually we'll be spinning up our own DEX on Regen Ledger that's specifically focused on natural capital assets. And so it's really a fantastic place, both to have liquidity and sort of growing the Regen community, but also to be able to participate from an engineering perspective and sort of learning how this is all moving and being able to learn from that. So I think, there's also a lot of learning for me personally going on around governance and how we build governance interfaces and sort of just processes into how we're moving forward with Regen Ledger. That's always been a strong emphasis, but there's just a lot of work to do. So I'd say that's another big line of just kind of process taking place. Thanks for sharing that tweet from F2 Pool. The other big, sort of news on that business side is we're finalizing the final little pieces of, and they already announced this a while back, but an offsetting pilot with Sotheby's around their big NFT auction that they did. So, we've just been focused on how do we create these engagements to educate and create direct offsetting mechanisms amongst sort of the more innovative things happening in the blockchain space right now. We've had an emphasis on that for the last couple of months in terms of like where the marketplace is focusing its attention. So hopefully that's all useful context. I'll take another pause and see if there are questions, comments, ideas, anything's fair game. If there isn't anything, I think I'll go back over and do a quick review of some of the materials that Revathi and I, the executive director over at Regen Foundation, were reviewing in a call together around some of the kind of bioregional hubs and community staking DAO process that's going place. That's more news from the foundation side of things, but I think it's useful to sort of bring that in at this stage, you know, and sort of counterbalance the, you know, you only live once trading energy going on with the DEX listings. Get us back to the roots there. So anybody have any questions or things that they'd specifically love to hear more about? Well, feel free to interrupt me. If there's nothing, then I'm gonna head over to this kind of cool mural and take us all on a quick, just so this is just a set of diagrams. If people, this is, I think this is particularly interesting. This system diagram of Regen Network, I made this in 2017. It's been upgraded a little bit, but this is mostly, you know, pretty much the same. So you can see, you know, community staking DAO, the exchangeable XRN, you know, just everything that's sort of moving, data, claims, third-party APIs. And we were using this as a conversation to chat about how we're engaging Indigenous communities specifically in governing, for instance, credit classes. You know, how do you create it? And for those of you who are active on Discord, you'll note that we have sort of like this weekly call series, and there's a bunch of things that have been moving around having Amazon eco credits focused on forest conservation and agroforestry. And there's a whole pilot taking place there that includes the Ecuadorian Ministry of Agriculture, Buckminster Fuller Institute, and a set of some indigenous communities, Achuar Nation, amongst others. And so there's a lot of just thought about how do we create the right sort of market interface for these communities so that they're kind of able to use the tools provided by Regen Ledger to govern, for instance, the credit class, but also to accrue, to have income from staking the system and helping govern the system, and sort of just create a foundation for legitimacy in the natural capital markets that are taking place. So just sort of zooming through, you can just kind of get a sense of some of the wireframe stuff. This is all, you know, kind of older, but around the flow from an ecosystem through data and verification into an asset issuance, and sort of the final sort of like you have assets that are trading. So kind of just gives a sense of everything that's moving. This is a kind of crazy graphic I love. And this was created by Martine Weinstein just to sort of show the full like climate marketplace. It's kind of like mind-blowing a little bit. And I think we're actually sort of reinventing some pieces of this, but it just, for those of you who are interested in the domain of sort of eco credits and carbon markets, these are just maybe sort of eye candy for thought and discussion. And again, this is coming from Revathi and I had sort of an open office hours where we were talking through using some of these graphics and having conversations about you know, how the foundation and R&D Inc., these two entities that are both part of the community here at Regen Network, are working together to make sure, in that context, to make sure that Indigenous people and land stewards, you know, a smallholder farmer, someone growing coffee, someone growing cacao, someone who's a goat herder, or you know, someone who's herding cattle, is sort of shows up and is part of governance and part of accruing and profiting and you know, obviously those are the people who are going to be changing their land management practices in order to generate these assets in the first place. So how to just ensure that they're deeply woven into the decentralized infrastructure that we're creating here. So with that, I'm going to stop my share again and yeah, just open it back up and see if there's questions or comments. Cool. I think it might be, if there aren't any more questions, I think I'll do a little, I think I want to just do a quick overview of what's moving and in that community staking DAO side of things. And again, this is sort of me reporting on work that's happening over at the foundation, but that we at R&D are trying to empower because it's such an important part of this happening in integrity. And then after I'm done with that, I was thinking it might also be kind of useful to just do a quick tour around the Discord channels and just, maybe open it up and see if we're missing any channels or places to have conversation. So this was prepared by Ravati, who is the executive director over at Regen Foundation, around how she and the foundation team are thinking about unfurling the endowment process for community staking DAOs. Many of you may know 30% of the total token supply is set aside for non-transferable tokens that well, there'll be a one-time transfer and then they're permanently locked essentially, and they're sort of endowed into the control of community groups, farmers, scientific organizations, and they can accrue block rewards for staking, participate in governance, and sort of these other layers of utility as a kind of core hybrid process of how we're bringing a proof of stake network and landing it into a community that is not as familiar with crypto. And sort of that's been sort of a fundamental part of how we need to really build community. So you can sort of see there's a focus on Ecuador, and there's a lot of activity there taking place. And so the strategy is to focus in a regional area in order to have some concrete learnings to then be able to scale it out to other areas. So for those of you who are listening who might be thinking, oh, I'd like to do community staking DAO sort of activism or work to help bring communities on board, learning and paying attention to what's happening in this context and then bringing that learning out into other places. I think we're going to start, the foundation is going to start a program that is really focused on sort of community leaders thinking through the problems around sort of digital governance and how that lands into a specific community. So, you can see in stage 2, other regional DAOs start to emerge, and we've had some fantastic conversations with a variety of different regions. Here's some examples. South Asia, that would be India, probably Indian subcontinent. East Africa, there's some really exciting things happening in Kenya and other places. So this is just sort of a little bit of an update, and Revati is going to be presenting on this more. And as I noted, there's sort of these bi-weekly calls, so people who are interested can sort of chime in. That's all happening, or has been all happening, on Discord. But I think the idea is to maybe shift that over to Zoom so that it can be recorded and put up onto YouTube for people who can't make it, etc. So I'll just stop sharing again there and see if there's questions, comments, or ideas. Getting up towards the top of the hour, so that feels like it's been a pretty full report back on my end. Yeah. Great. Well, if questions or comments emerge, yes, definitely. Neil, we would love to see coastal and sort of deeper ocean credits and mechanisms emerging. And there's been some fun conversations with folks like the Climate Foundation, who's doing kelp, and other places. So if you have energy and excitement, I think definitely, it's a really important, 74% or something of our Earth is covered in ocean. So it's a really important place. It's also, the ocean is the biggest carbon sink, of course, as well. So it's a sort of super important part of the climactic system. We don't have any oceanic eco credits. Like, I couldn't give you a timeline on a specific eco credit coming from an ocean system yet, but we've been having interesting conversations with folks. This is the type of example where we would really prefer to be supporting community actors to be creating a credit type or a market mechanism using the technology. And so if there's ways that we can support that with technical expertise, or potentially grant support, it's very interesting, but I don't think our core team at this stage has the bandwidth to pull off sort of a soup to nuts oceanic ecological credit. Cool. All right. Well, getting up towards the top of the hour, I am going to say adieu and thank you all for coming to this episode of the community Regen Network community call. Things are pretty exciting. We mentioned up front that Regen is out in the wild on osmosis decks, so it's been a pretty monumental couple of weeks seeing that happen. And I think we've been running around helping make sure everything goes well out in the Cosmos community, and looking forward as that all matures, as the DEX infrastructure and our role in the Cosmos ecosystem of DeFi kind of solidifies and settles out to a new normal. Looking forward to starting to do bigger, deeper cycles on the next set of governance upgrades coming up for Regen, Ledger, and maybe over the next couple of weeks of these community dev calls, we can start having some more deep dives into some of the functionality that's being planned and built for Regen Ledger, and just give everybody a sense of what's happening, what's coming, and where people can plug in. So thanks, everybody.